I'm here in the heart of Istanbul, which is frequently known as the cradle of civilization. But in fact, the first politically united empire in Anatolia, which is really the largest part of modern-day Turkey, was the Hittite Empire. Now, obviously, they never came to Istanbul. It didn't exist at the time. But now, some of their greatest treasures reside here.
Istanbul is a city of contrast that straddles Asia in the east and Europe on the west. Amid the hustle and bustle, Tessa is heading to the Istanbul Archaeological Museum, a sanctuary of calm that houses what many consider to be one of the most important documents ever written. It's the Treaty of Kadesh, written 16 years after the great battle between the Hittite and Egyptian empires. Tessa is with Professor Ali Dinçol, one of the world's leading Hittite scholars, to find out more.
Professor Dinçol, this is the Kadesh Treaty. But I wonder, why was it signed so much later than the battle itself?
Only after Hattusili stabilized the political events in Anatolia, he could make a treaty with Egypt.
I see. So in other words, Hattusili had to make sure he was strong at home before he could look outwards.
Yes.
Did the treaty actually work?
Well, yes, because no aggression has happened after the treaty until the fall of the Hittite Empire.
The Treaty of Kadesh brought peace between the two superpowers of the day. With the Egyptians as allies, the Hittite Empire now had little to fear from the outside world. But inside the empire itself, a new danger was growing. Having deposed the rightful heir to the throne to become king, Hattusili had made powerful enemies who wanted the throne for themselves. To protect himself and his family from danger, he now began his most ambitious building project, a spectacular royal citadel. Here, engineer Jesse Karp is with archaeologist Elif Danel, investigating what is called locally the Buyukale. Built on a high plateau surrounded by steep cliffs, the citadel had superb natural defenses that were further enhanced by walls as heavily fortified as those that guarded the city. At its entranceway was yet another line of defense, the barracks of the elite royal bodyguards called the Bears of the Golden Lance, whose sworn duty was to protect Hattusili and his heirs.
The king's security would have lived here. Do we have any idea of if they were there 24 hours a day? This was, a constant kind of presence in this courtyard?
Well, not just the courtyard. Probably everywhere there was protection.
Okay.
Protection of the king was very important. I mean, this is completely naturally protected. Along these sides, there are natural rock droppings all around. Of course, there were walls as well. So this is a very well-secured area. That's why the king probably chose to live here. Also, it has a really good command of the area all around the citadel.
There's quite an extraordinary view, actually. You can see pretty much panoramic across the valley.
Everything the king needed was to be found within this high-security compound, including what archaeologists think was his family's private temple, nicknamed the King's Swimming Pool.
So, in the day of the Hittites, we wouldn't see trees here. This would have been a ceremonial pool.
Yeah, the structure we're standing in was actually walled all around and roofed. And there was an opening right on top of this pool.
Okay. And today, we're just walking on the foundation.
Exactly.
Although thousands of Hittite religious texts have been translated, the true function of this pool chamber still eludes archaeologists. The sacred cleansing rituals, thought to have once been performed here by the royal family, have been lost. But the purpose of another building is far clearer.
This foundation structure looks very different than some of the other stuff around it.
Yes, this building was built on a huge platform wall around here. And it functioned as the reception hall of the king. There would have been 5 walls here supporting the floor above us that had 5 rows of 5 columns in the area where the king would be expecting his visitors.
So this was essentially a meeting place for foreign dignitaries other important visitors to meet the king.
Exactly.
The grand reception hall was more than 100 feet wide and long, with 25 columns holding up its high roof. Here, Hattusili would greet the rulers of his vassal states, as well as envoys from the great foreign powers of the day, such as Egypt. Beyond it are the remains of the king's own residence, the private apartments he lived in with his family and most trusted servants.
We may be looking at the king's actual residence right now.
Do we have any idea of how he might have lived here? Was he living with servants, his family?
Well, he obviously had servants, and he had a wife, and he had concubines. It is possible that they all lived together here.
It's certainly an amazing location to have your palace.
Hittite royalty lived in secluded isolation, and we know little about Hattusili's concubines and their children. The exception is Pudahepa, Hattusili's formidable queen, who played a more active role in public life than any queen before or after her.
She definitely was a very strong woman. She was clearly really well educated. She knew how to deal with international relations, and she knew how to run the country in a way, because she was able to influence a significant aspect of it.
Pudahepa's influence helped make this palace complex the center of the empire. Its entrance flanked by elite bodyguards and officials, it was a city within a city, housing a sacred royal temple and a reception hall that would have bustled with envoys from around the ancient world.